And good afternoon, Hunterdon County and Flemington directly. I sound a little bit louder today, don't I?
Tony, you're always
coming
loud.
through well.
It's
a beautiful afternoon. I always like to kick off with the weather. It was cool overnight, but I think we truly will be heading north from here, don't you? We've got a nice weekend planned.
We do. First of all, I want to say welcome to the Tony and Joe show, as we call it.
Well, he's all business.
It's all business, Tony. You got to stop fooling around with this Tony and Joe show. It's really about
This is
real
important
estate, not
information.
weather. But it's okay, Tony.
okay.
Take it with the weather.
Okay. Well, I was just finishing up, but thank you, Joe. This is the real estate show coming to you live from the Flemington Car and Truck Country Broadcast Centre.
Well said.
And we're at 127 Main Street. This is where we're looking to see quite a few things changed. We're joined today by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Joe Eggert.
Tony, how are you, buddy boy?
I am well. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Actually, with this sun, boy, I really got a kick in the butt. But I feel really good. I was outside for a while, doing errands,
Excellent.
doing real estate.
Not the back deck. I'm waiting for the back
deck
deck
is getting
party.
there. The railings are
It is.
going up.
Okay.
We'll have the deck party soon.
Excellent.
But no, it's a great day. Real estate is pretty active. I'd be honest with you.
It's extremely
It's
active.
very active.
Yeah.
So things are doing pretty
Let's
good.
hope it's not a bubble, as I was saying to someone else today, because
Well-
how often do you see the spring season take off, particularly with all
boom,
this
then hit
bad
the
R
wall.
word?
And then hit
yeah,
the wall.
and then it slows down.
Well, that's the history of real estate in New Jersey is that very subject, where we go up, boom, 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 we run, we go crazy, and then the summer comes and it's just
Yeah.
go to the shore
Yeah.
and enjoy the rest of the year.
Well, today, it's interesting. Part of the reason for the weather is I was here on Saturday, as was our guest. We were standing initially at 1 p.m. in the rain and a little bit of flurries right in front of the Union Hotel site, and then we moved across the street. But I would like to send out a big thank you to Mr. Phil Villela, who I think you're probably on screen. Can you see?
Oh, yeah, they see
has
his pretty
joined
face.
us, and Phil comes from an infamous background that perhaps
Infamous.
he's going to share with us. I say some words that I don't
Why
fully
do you say
understand.
infamous? Why is that?
Well, because let's put him on the back foot and see what he has to say.
back
you know,
foot, that's Australian for on the spot.
on the spot. Yeah, get your didgeridoo out. But thank you very much for coming, and also being
Thank
an
you.
active
Thanks for
participant in Flemington. Like, who else was down there that was from Flemington Borough? I keep saying Flemington, but Flemington. It's not the red wine.
No.
So, Phil, welcome. If you'd
Welcome.
like to give a little introduction on yourself,
Sure, thank
your
you.
background.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. We did this a few months ago. Well, maybe a year or so ago,
Oh, yeah.
and it was very enjoyable. I'm really glad to be back. A little bit about myself. I've been involved with Flemington politics, if you will, and the bid over the past 5 years or so. I moved to Flemington 10 years ago. I'm a long-time New Jersey resident, so I was raised in New Jersey, born in New York, but raised in New Jersey.
Still talk with a little New York in there, by
I
the
could
way.
do that too.
You do,
How's
yeah,
that?
I hear
I
you.
could do that.
How you doing?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
That's good.
But when I moved to Flemington 10 years ago, I was really excited about the town. It was vibrant. There was activity going on in the middle of town. My wife and I will be married 39 years this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
Congratulations, yeah.
And we were looking for, our children obviously are grown up. So we were looking for a community where we could walk to the middle of town, maybe have a cup of coffee, maybe have dinner, right? Something that we didn't have to commute to. And Flemington offered all of that. And we bought a very old home in town. It's one of the significant homes as designated by the HPC. And hi,
Oh,
got another guest here, huh?
We do. Yes.
The band
It's-
is complete.
Now, the word I chose before is probably more appropriately used for Mr. Manuel Forenoci, but that's okay. Good afternoon, Manny.
Hello,
How are you?
Manny.
Thank you for
Phil
joining us.
Villela, nice to meet you.
Manny's
Yeah,
the
sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
Yeah.
quite all right. No,
He's
no
Manny's
problem at
the
all.
money guy.
You know what? I don't mind interruptions. I was on the council for a while, and I
You
got
got a lot
used
of
to
that,
it.
didn't you?
I thought everyone on the council gets along so well, and all the guests that come in. Is there ever? we'll come
So
back
anyway,
to that.
we'll get to the
Yeah.
council. So, so that's why we moved to this community, and then things changed pretty quickly. The hotel unfortunately closed down. It looked like some businesses were moving out of town. You get to know the soul of a community as you start living in it a little more, and it became apparent to me that some of the qualities that I
Attracted
bring
you.
to the conversation, if you will, and my experience in business might be valuable, in the town council and in some of the activities that go on in the community. So I ran for office. I was fortunate to win, and I served for one term as a councilman. Was very active on the bid. I was the council representative for the bid while I was on council.
Just in case some of the listeners don't understand what the Business Improvement District
Right.
actually provides, could you just explain a little bit about the Flemington bid?
Sure. There you go. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So the Flemington bid was created just before I actually started was elected on the council, and the charter for the bid is to find ways to improve the business environment in town, assist local businesses in increasing, their revenue, if you will. To draw new business into the community, to create awareness.
Certain
right?
types of businesses too, to create a sort of feel. Is that part of it, or they're really not discriminating? Or
I think that that's part of it.
planning?
It could be, right? To assess what types of businesses would, do very well in the area. Maybe look at businesses in other communities and within the maybe Hunterdon County,
Right.
and say, geez, we don't have a bowling alley, or we don't have
A
a
brewery.
theater.
or
A theater is the big
Now,
one.
we've talked about bid a lot.
Yeah.
What exactly is bid in relation to? Is it an outside consulting group that you hire to come in, or is it people you appoint to the committee?
The bid was created by ordinance.
But who makes up the bid? Is it an outside council? Is it an outside consulting group?
No. Now,
It's a good question, actually.
who sits
'cause
on it?
It's just been disbanded, just so you know.
Right.
Let's
it is
go
being
through
changed,
it.
which I'm not involved in.
Right.
I am no
No,
longer
no.
involved.
Yeah.
But who makes
on
up
the
the
council.
bid group?
Well, at the time, the bid was made up primarily of local business people,
And they had
Okay.
a full-time paid,
and
a
yes,
full-time paid director, I call it. Is that the right term?
yes. Now
Right.
you also need
Yeah.
an executive branch, if you will, of the bid. You need an administrative branch, and the bid created a board of trustees, right? And that was made up of, I believe it was around 14 business owners that were
Okay.
appointed on
And-
the
and
trustees,
it
and then
was-
they hired a bid director, and the bid director would then go out and maybe hire a couple of administrators in order to, do the business side, the
Manny,
administrative side of the bid.
And the bid was funded by tax money. It was a levy put on tax of the business.
on commercial
business.
owners,
Not a
not
lot.
on owners. So if you were a renter of a property,
Right.
you wouldn't be paying that
If you
tax.
owned a business in
Yeah,
town,
the reason why I bring that up is I know, like in town where I live, we had the same type thing,
Hillsborough.
Hillsborough. And what they did there, though, like for an example, before they brought Lowe's in, one of the guys on the committee was from Ace Hardware, owned Ace Hardware in town.
So he said,
So he was dead set against bringing
Sure.
Lowe's in. But meanwhile, when Lowe's came in, it was a huge rateable for the town.
of course,
Correct.
of
So,
course, you got to weigh that.
that's but what happens when you have business owners on the
They have I think they have a vested interest. I
Well,
mean,
let's face it, everyone has a
everyone has a
vested
vested-
interest,
but-
typically.
well, when you bring
But
in a completely
are you-
arbitrary
Well-
group, that's
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but the issue, not the issue, but the latest thing that I read, tell me if I'm wrong, is that the bid was an overwhelming failure. According
I
to,
w- I-
Well, on what metric, though,
I-
Joe? What
I'm
did you
just-
hear? You got to
I mean,
have
I
more
read
than just
in the
that.
Democrat, there
Okay.
was a whole review of the situation, and they just said that bid was just, and they disbanded the bid, based on what? Help
Well,
me out
that's
there.
the thing. I didn't hear that they were overwhelming failure at all. They did a lot of activities.
Well,
now,
according
you
to
may,
this outside consultant, they they did not report very favorably. And I'm not here passing judgment on the bid. Trust me,
No,
I'm not.
no.
I'm just saying what I read in the paper, that the bid was disbanded because it just did not do what it was intended to do. Now, right or wrong, it's a hard task to try to bring a town up.
Well,
by its
regardless what the
bootstrap.
paper said or even what you're saying, what did they change? Was there any changes? Was there any recommendations?
Well, they
that
tried a number of things. They
Okay, but
tried
was
to
there
bring
anything
people.
that actually developed as a
Yeah,
result of it?
yeah, no, they actually did quite a few things. So
I'm
let me-
asking. I don't
No,
know.
no,
I'm
well,
asking.
I'm waiting. You guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
All
right,
they
now we're gonna hear.
they
Go ahead.
raised money and got a grant. They got $1 million grant to do some roadside redevelopment. Now, would Flemington have got that in the past? I don't know. You know, Phil
Is
can
that what
answer.
the is that
Let
what's going
me
on with
sort
the
of give
circle
Phil.
Let's
No,
let
it's
Alan
nothing
hear
to do
from
with
Phil.
the
You're right.
Okay.
I can't. Now the bid has been disbanded, and they've created a new bid, and I have not been involved
Really?
in that
I
in
didn't
that
know that.
in that
A new-
activity.
so
Right.
a
So
new
there are
bid.
there are new people involved in the bid now that the council has been working with, and I don't know the complete makeup of that now. I will say that I would disagree that the bid was a complete failure. They did some very good things over their time. No.
What was
and-
the result of?
No, I'll give you a couple of my observations about what the bid did, and maybe about where they could have maybe done things better. All right, or refocused. The bid did some very good things. I mean, if you look at the activities that occurred while they were the older group was involved, there was lots of activities that drew people from outside of our community to Flemington. So we had some very successful events. We've had Thursday Night Lights, which was a tremendous event where we had lots of musicians that would play in different locations in town, and the estimates of the people that came into town were, over 5,000 people just coming to that one event. Does that create a lot of business for the business community? It does for some and
Does
not
for-
for
right,
others, right?
right.
If you own the local hardware store, you're not going to get a lot of business out of that.
Look at the local
But if you're
ice cream shop.
an ice cream shop or restaurant, you're going to get a lot of business out of that. Although I will say that some of the businesses in town, as an example, the pet store we have in town, Andy's very active in all of these different activities, and he stays open for those events, and he actually saw an increase in
Right. He probably doesn't see it that
intake
night,
because
but somewhere down the road he might
yes,
see it.
so
He's
so
not your standard pet store too. I actually went in there very early on to get some food.
Mm-hmm.
It's that appealing. You don't realize it's only dogs.
Wait a minute, you're eating
Or-
dog.
or-
You're eating dog.
No, I got turned away. I went,
Times are
that's
rough.
how I
You better
discovered
start selling some
Coco's.
houses.
You know,
My,
but-
my criticism to that, and I'm not trying to be point counterpoint, is a lot of towns do that. They do their painting festivals and let's
Right.
see, but the people come in for the day and leave.
And
for
they
the
go.
day. And then they go, and now the town becomes quiet again.
Right.
I think what someone, bid or anyone, and I'm not, again, is the idea is to promote more business here every day. That's
excellent point.
The car shows. I'm a big car guy.
Right,
They come in here, and then
and then they leave.
boom, they're gone.
Excellent point. And
Somerville does that too, though. So
You
and-
don't compare Somerville.
Well,
and that's
they
part
have
of the
car shows,
challenge.
you know.
That's part of the challenge, and I think that's some of the problems that the older bid ran into that led to this change. All right, so that's a good point. I just want to say one or two other things. The bid was very instrumental in the streetscape grant project. They really helped the town submit that grant application. And if it wasn't for them, I'm not sure we would have gotten that
well,
grant.
yeah, the fact that
So
they had
that
a
was
bit,
very
you
big.
can't start from scratch with some of these processes and grants and things that come up. And if they weren't there, I'm very confident Flemington Borough would not have received it.
I would agree with that. And if you look even further and you go back further, there was the DeLorme report. They were involved in a lot of studies, right? The SAG study. They were involved in a lot of studies that they funded to really try and understand from a professional standpoint, from an outsider standpoint, what our town needs, what are some of the challenges. Sometimes when you're very close to something, you really can't see it. Now, in my case, as I'm getting older, the closer I get to the typed word the less clear it is. So I guess that serves the point. If you back up a little bit, you might see things a little better, right? So they've done some good things. Now, here's the challenge that I saw, and I was the bid president for, I should say, bid chairman of the Board of Trustees for a period of time, and then I wound up, because of my work and my career, I couldn't give the time into it that was necessary to do the right thing for the community. I had to move on, so I wound up resigning from the bid because of work, my work schedule. But one of the challenges the bid has is really understanding who their targets are. Who are their customers? What are they really trying to do? Right. And to your point that you talked about before, you don't want a bid to be a well-funded recreation committee. All right? Exactly. You don't want them to do that. Now, is activities that they could generate or that they could sponsor and they have the wherewithal to pull off and make happen, is that beneficial? Yes. But what do you do with that? The target is not the people that come to those events. The target should be people of substance and wealth that have ideas, entrepreneurs that are looking for a place to open up business. And that was an area that, and I'll take some of the blame for that as the chairman, there was some failings there. We needed to find a way to bring in developers, to bring in entrepreneurs that were looking to open up a business in the right environment, and show them the enthusiasm and the draw of the people in this area, the hunger for activity, right, and excitement and entertainment or stimulation, right, in the area. We didn't do a good job of that. We didn't tie those two things together. And last time I was here, we talked a little bit about business metrics, right, on the bid. We didn't put those.
Revitalization was a big word. I remember it.
Right.
You had actually the 3 R's or something. I think. What was it? Revitalization and
right.
You know.
So, but getting back to the bid, I think that was one of the areas that we could have done a better job with. But the bid was made when I was there, and all the people that were on the old bid were very hardworking, conscientious people. Yeah. They had a very positive attitude about the town. They really wanted things to work out.
And it was comprised of people that lived and worked in the town. Like to Manny's points, they actually are Flemington Borough residents or business owners, right? Operators, owners.
All of the members of the Board of Trustees were either residents of the town or they owned a business in the town.
Right.
Okay,
and I think that's important.
Well, they actually had to own a business. There was one seat for a resident in town.
Okay,
right? And that was my seat. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I think things have changed so much for Flemington, and it's without your control.
Has it though?
Oh my
Explain
God!
why?
Tony,
because I think it's been the
same
same for 10 years.
When? From
35. Let me just go back before Manny was born. He'll say 35 years ago, when I came out here, there were bus trips. Buses used to come here to the outlet.
Well, I just want to know the time frame. So from back then to now.
But wait, let me finish.
It wasn't 35 years ago. Bus trips going. It was like 20 years ago.
Well, it started when I know it, and probably went down and slowly dwindled, not because of what happened here, but the surrounding areas. Just take a look over the course of 30 years. What happened to Route 31, this circle? All the big stores are out there, very close to Flemington. Mm-hmm. The impetus for a business owner to open up something here is very hard. It's very hard. You just go out up on 31 around the circle. Mm-hmm. You got brand new malls. You have all these stores. I think Flemington is just surrounded with a lot of stores.
And the problem with retail is it's recycled money versus new money coming in. Like when they lost Lipton Tea brought a lot of money into this county.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Houses and everything else. You lose Lipton
But
Tea.
they get Lowe's here. How can you be an Ace Hardware with a Lowe's?
Well, do you know how hard it was for Lowe's to come in here for a start? The facade that they had to put up was, and I see you smiling, right? It cost them at least $250,000.
Then look at Costco.
And Costco,
Costco's
but
year 2 or 3.
that's in Raritan though, right?
Right.
So
But
that's not
everybody-
helping. Agway was
everybody
downtown here, and we'd
thinks-
come to Agway.
Everybody thinks it's Flemington, but you're right, it's Raritan Township. On the outskirts. I look at Flemington as a donut hole.
It is.
And-
Metuchen,
And how do you...
Washington Borough,
Well,
they're all donuts.
I mean, it's easy to look back and
Sure.
and see things clearer now, right? I would say that, and I wasn't a resident of Hunterdon County back then. I was more of a resident of Morris County, so I didn't see all of the things that were going on here. I would say that, looking back, it's clear that one of the shortcomings that that occurred was the business community and even the county didn't understand what would happen to Flemington Borough as they saw all of this growth
Yep.
in
I
you know
agree.
outside of outside of the donut hole, right? So that was a real problem. I mean, it obviously sapped a lot of the business that
Absolutely.
was once in town. It and moved them out to those strip malls on Route 31,
Yep.
right, and those other locations. So that was a serious problem because they didn't understand. We need to reinvent ourselves all the time.
that was one of the R words: reinvent, revitalize. I can't
What's the
remember
third
the other
one?
one.
Come on, it's
I
gonna come to
can't
you. It's
remember,
gonna
but
come
it'll
to
come
you.
to
You
me.
saw
If
Some take,
anybody
yeah.
wants to call in and chime in, I'd appreciate it. 908-303-0878. If you got something to say about it, whether you believe it, what I say is right or wrong, or anybody else at the table, call in. I'd love to hear it.
Or
Let me ask you
some
something.
other
You brought
comment.
up the
Yeah.
thing about the Hunterdon Democrat
Yes.
and their
yes.
whatever failing marks or anything. The goal of bid, was any of those goals hit by the first bid? And then with the second bid, what was the changes? That
Well,
went from
did
the
they
first bid?
have goals?
Well, they
Let's
had to
go.
have goals.
Well,
that
they
were-
did.
But-
I mean,
they had to
let's-
have goals.
let's review
Were
the
any of the
metrics,
goals
yeah.
hit
Well,
or not?
Well, look, I think the bid was successful in creating awareness, creating some activity and excitement, creating a draw of bringing people into town, right, that weren't necessarily going to come to Flemington on that weekend or on that particular evening. So they were successful in that aspect. They were very successful in helping the town get that $1 million grant for the streetscape. They were very successful in helping that young group of entrepreneurs, if you will, in the DIY young folks that were using 90 Main Street, where they they used the old
Little
bank
business,
building.
yep.
They're still using that for lots of different activities. So they did some very good things. In the end, did they make a major impact that's going to put us on a road of recovery? No. That takes
So now
time.
is that going to be with the new bid
Well,
then? Is that
well,
the new?
let's hope so. I
Well,
mean,
they
I'm not
had
involved with the new
limited
bid, but
capabilities, though, too.
Right.
Let's face it.
here's one of the things that's interesting. Keep in mind, a lot of the people that sit on the bids and that are on the bid boards in any town, whether it's in any town that's out there that has a
Somerville
bid,
or Hillsborough,
right?
yeah.
Like in your town, right?
Right.
They're local business people. They don't necessarily have the same experiences in creating something new. They understand their business, right? And they're very good at what they do, I'm sure, but they might not understand how to create, the awareness and the real wealth and the type of activities
Maybe they shouldn't
to
be on that.
On the board,
they
yeah.
should
to
be
change
there.
a town, right?
Maybe they shouldn't
Right.
be there.
Now, one of the things that I've had, this is me speaking. I'm not going to speak for other bid members. We had some experts that have come in that are so-called bid experts that are
So-called, yeah.
advise on how bids should be structured and what they should be doing. I'm not sure that those are entrepreneurial folks either. I think a lot of them are academians, or they have some kind of, they understand a process. Not all towns' needs are created equal. Not all bids should look the same. Their goals need to be adjusted and they need to be different.
I think you need
That was a
board.
challenge that I saw in the town of Flemington. We needed more of a focus on drawing businesses, entrepreneurs, wealth people with that have businesses that of some substance.
Trump-like mentalities, not
Well-
Trump, not Trump himself, but Trump-like mentalities that are going to get it done. Get
Well,
the
I
businesses
agree.
in.
I agree. I think if I sat on,
But at what
if all of
cost?
us sat around the table,
Whatever, you
saying,
get a new Lipton tea in here, not
if
Well-
I sat here and I owned a little hardware store, I would be like saying, "What can you do for me?" I'm gonna be honest.
Well, that's everybody. Everybody
everybody's
really
gonna-
centers on
and,
themselves.
and I'll give
That's
you
exactly
and
it.
I'll
Lowe's
give you
was
an
the best
answer.
thing for me. I'm not going to put my own little hardware store out of business, even though Lowe's may be the best thing for Flemington.
Well, a bid doesn't necessarily have the authority to say you can't put a Lowe's in or not.
Of course
Now,
No, but they're
if,
not going
if
to go.
now let's get back to that owner of the hardware store.
Sure.
What can you do for me if you're on the bid? Well, a bid could do a few things for that person. They can advise them on maybe their appeal, the street appeal of their business itself, right? Maybe they could change things. Maybe their signs should look different. Maybe the appeal of the business from the street isn't quite up to par.
Oh, well,
They could-
signage is the hottest topic in a lot of towns. Who's even allowed to
but
advertise,
they could
right?
they could provide those things.
You know, we have a whole signage
Can
committee.
they, though?
They could-
Phil?
sure,
Because
absolutely.
the missing
We had-
component here is how did they get on with the Flemington Borough Council as
We
well?
had some
did
very-
they have a good relationship? The answer's turned out no.
Well, actually, in the beginning and in certain aspects of what the bid did, they had a great relationship with the council.
Yeah.
They were very creative people on the bid. They had some really good ideas about signage and about how you display that. They talked about safety, about how does the sidewalks
Policing.
look? Is there enough lighting at night? What are the hours that you are operating at? You can't complain about not having enough business if you open up at 10 in the morning and close at 5
4,
o'clock.
yeah.
People are working. They might not be able to get to your store in time. So they did advise on those type of things, and I think they can help there. They could help with advertising. I don't know if you ever went onto the Flemington FBID website. They did advertising for a
Yeah,
lot of the
they did
businesses.
a lot.
So
Look,
they did some of those things. Now, if I'm an owner of a business like that in a small community like this, I have to also have realistic goals, right? We don't have the density and the traffic that you might have in, let's say, Westfield, right?
You
I
can't
mean,
compare the two.
so you can't compare the two. So the bid could probably do some things to create awareness, maybe increase some of the density that's going on, in the community by bringing others here. That might help, right? It's hard to quantify that. You could qualify a lot of those things. A lot of it has to now do with the master plan, the town itself, how they build a plan to bring in business.
Well,
right?
you said-
Let's leave the bid because
Okay.
I'm just afraid we're running out of
He
time.
said it. Why? We've got 30 minutes left.
Well, there's a lot of other stuff to
Yeah,
get
but
through.
I mean, he
believe
said
me,
a
than
good
the
word.
bid.
Westfield. Oh my God. Now there is a town. Okay.
It's quite different demographically. Let's,
Demographically,
yeah.
that downtown was going downhill. You know
Sure.
that? It
well,
was.
well,
Why
there's
did
cycles everywhere.
Why? Because they lured, one way or the other, I don't know how they did it, some major stores there. You get a major store in a place, build it and they will come. And then other
Like what? What did they bring?
like a
in?
Macy's or
Okay.
a Lord and Taylor, you bring in a store like that, and I'm not saying Lord and Taylor here, of course, I'm not that off of it. But when you bring in a large anchor store, the other stores will follow. And that is one of Westfield's big ones. Of course, they're on the rail line, we know that. But Westfield
Well,
has
proximity
turned
to
around.
other.
They have 30,000 people in
Yeah.
their town.
Yes.
Every other town that surrounds Westfield has about the same amount of people. It's an entirely different situation. We
But they
do
were
not
going
have
down.
the density.
They were going down that downtown. It was
Look,
Well,
if you want to
good.
throw
but lots,
them in,
but lots of towns would go downtown.
Yeah.
And this
we'll go
segues in-
down though. He's saying that
They
there's
were
a
going.
downturn
They were on the
in
down
a
low,
business.
but
Yeah.
they.
Let me give you an example
ahead.
where I was today.
Where were you today?
Edison,
Ooh.
and remember the Ford plant
Plant?
that
Oh,
used
yeah.
to be there. That is a major structural change.
Right.
How have they come back from it?
Oh.
So I mean, this is what the bid used
You know,
to
they had
do.
a GM plant next to it.
Yep.
That was a long time ago, though, wasn't
But
it?
they, well,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
not
you're
that long
talking
ago.
But
population
you
density.
bring
But
up
that
more
between-
painful history. Look at what New Jersey has lost. That's not just Edison.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. We used to be a
But
pharmaceutical
I didn't
capital.
mean to take us off. But when we start to compare to other towns, you need to compare apples and,
Okay,
and
I'll
have the
compare it to
metrics.
my favorite town, Somerville.
Well, that's different as well. Come on.
What do you mean?
But it's still different as well.
it is.
I would agree with Tony. There, a lot of the towns, Flemington is unique compared to some of those other towns that have undergone a renaissance.
Is metamorphosis.
Is that the third word?
Mor-
Renaissance? It
Morris,
wasn't, no.
Morristown, as an example,
Oh.
wonderful,
Yeah.
right? Somerville, right? I've heard. I didn't know Somerville.
Somerville,
before,
you gotta
right?
go.
But no, I do go. But I
phenomenal.
didn't
We
know
want to
it
stay
in the
here,
past.
Joe.
I love Somerville.
One of the challenges that we have in our town is we don't have the density in
Yet.
Hunterdon County yet. So that's one of the challenges.
But
that
we have been
have-
prohibiting that development because let's just get that out
Well-
there.
Yeah, 'cause if
the
you look at-
reason
you get-
why it hasn't grown or even developed along that line is we used to have plans that would say managing growth, i.e. politically correct speak for, hell no, you're not coming here. How many towns in Hunterdon and Warren have kept businesses out back in the good days and now we're paying the price? Lipton, you know, Merck, Foster Wheeler, some of these other entities, and it's not just the town.
But it's not the
I'm-
town, it's
no,
the state,
I
it's the
understand,
tax
I
structure,
understand.
there's a
but,
number
But
of
I'm
things.
saying, what more can be done? Are we welcoming? You know, and I've said before, Singapore as a country, because you can take it up. I used to compete with them to win multinational corporations to come and build their call centers back in the day, right? Or technology centers or whatever. They were the best because they had a hit team that would work with that corporation and anything that needed to be done. Oh, yes. You forget how much it costs to go through the toll booths. You forget all these other expensive items. They would get it done. They were better than Japan, Australia, all of these others. So I come back. Was there really the commitment and desire and the resolve to bring businesses in here? You can be a consultant and a partner with these towns, but are they really wanting?
Well, a lot
Who
of,
do
like
they
I
want
said,
to
a lot of
bring
it's
in?
New Jersey. We're ranked 50th in new employment.
Yeah, and look,
50th.
we've got beautiful things. Let's sort of move this along a little
So-
bit because we're
All right,
Fine.
I want to talk about the gorilla in the room.
Well,
The gorilla
What are
in
you
the
going to
room.
bring me up?
well. The
The
only
cor-
thing
the-
is the council. I thought it'd be
Well,
good
wait,
to
I got
finish.
one more. You can't
Okay.
talk about Flemington until you talk about one thing. You know where I'm going to go? The Union Hotel.
He does this every time.
Well, no,
every time.
everybody. This has been such a black eye for Flemington. I'm sorry. I'm just going to speak as a person. who
And it
lives in
has been
Hunterdon.
going on for
How many
a
years
decade.
is this whole hotel been going on?
since Phil moved here, actually.
since I moved here,
Okay.
yes.
Now, again,
Am I
So
the-
you're
maybe
saying
I'm
you're
the
the boss?
problem.
You're the
Phil,
boss?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
its claim to fame was the Charles Lindbergh trial. Okay, we understand that. It's a beautiful building. I've eaten
Was it
in
really? I
there.
didn't
It's
know
a
that.
great. No, they was across the trial. They went across the
Oh,
street.
yeah,
and
yeah.
they-
So-
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that's true. Okay, I do remember
I've eaten
that
in
now.
there. It was wonderful. It'd sit outside and eat on the porch. It was beautiful.
Yes, it was very nice.
Very nice.
I used to
That
do a lot
was
of drinking
draw
there.
for this town.
I never did.
All right,
I
we
did.
realized
Drink.
that whole scenario was so complicated and convoluted, what's going on, but the people today just see this bulk of a building sitting there going to decay, people arguing, fighting, getting sued, and this new man comes out, Jack Cusp, and he comes out with this grandiose plan, and now I'll call them the tree huggers are coming out. If you're a tree hugger, call me.
Yeah.
That are
Histo-
saying,
historian.
do not tear down my hotel.
Preservation.
The other people are saying, we gotta because. Now, I don't live here, so I'm not gonna overdo it, but this has been going on for so long.
Sure. So
Yep.
let me
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm done.
let me give
I'm
you
done.
my take on this.
Your
And
take.
by the way, I think it's all interconnected. The discussion we just had about how you improve the area, I think, is tied into some of the challenges we have with the hotel as well. I firmly believe that it's more than a lack of desire of what's happened in our community, if you will, to get things going. I think it's people have to take a step back and look at things realistically and with and in a
Without
reality,
their
if you
passion,
will.
without
Right.
their passion of
Without free of emotion.
right.
Yeah,
right?
passion, I
Um,
think, is good. It's just if you.
Well, but
I'm not sure
emotion.
that everyone understands exactly the challenges we face and how we solve those challenges. One of the biggest, the hotel's a perfect example, right? It has it has been sitting there for 8 years now, and people continually talk about the history of our area and how that is such a valuable thing, and how it brings it's our future, and it brings prosperity to the community. The problem is that it brings heartfelt prosperity. It brings emotional prosperity. It brings memories, right, that are cherished to
But
people.
not financial.
But you could qualify some of that value. You can't put it into dollars and cents and qualify it and
Well,
quantify it.
yeah,
and
I'm
that's
not
one of the biggest challenges I think that we have is that I see. Tony, you talked about the other day when we were out on Main Street and it was flurrying and it was cold. There were a lot of people that came in support of the hotel. I would say 80% of the folks that were
Really?
there didn't
We're
live in
outside
the town.
Flemington Barrow,
So
yeah.
they didn't live in
Like
Flemington
myself.
Barrow, right?
Yeah.
Now, I asked a few of them. I said, why are you here? And they said, because I remember how wonderful things used to be.
Yeah.
It's those days are over. We have to change. We have to adapt. We should find ways to preserve as much of our history as we can, but we also have to be realistic about moving forward. Our town today is a poor town. We're one of the poorest towns, if not the poorest town in Hunterdon County, right? We need to find ways to change that formula, right? We have to change. We have to do things differently. I like Jack Cuss' plan because it does a couple of things that I know that we have to do. And by the way, let me say this because for
Can you
people
touch
that
base
are
a little bit
listening.
on what Jack wants to do with the place?
Well, yes, I will. Jack wants to take the 4 buildings that are on Main Street. They're all next to each other, right? From the hotel all the way to 90 Main Street and 2 buildings in between. And he wants to knock them down and build a complex, if you will, and a lifestyle complex that includes a hotel, that includes townhouses, it includes multiple restaurants and other retail businesses, right? Now,
And the college.
the college is on the other, and the college, well,
No, that's
a facility that could be used as a
Part of Round Valley
college.
Community College.
Right.
he said.
Well,
Well,
there's
which-
a lot of. You're right to bring that up and
Thank you.
also 900 parking spaces underground.
Underground.
Yeah,
and-
let's go
and
through it all because
and
it's
900 parking spaces underground and inside of the facility itself. So the townhouses and the
And a-
businesses would be on the outside of that, so you wouldn't see the parking spaces.
and a mall going through back to Spring Street or Flemington
With the
Firs,
restaurants, right.
and
So-
it's going to be a
Sort of
major,
like what they did in Somerville.
Now,
exactly
it's a
what they
very,
did in
It's a
Somerville.
very, very ambitious plan.
$80 million to plus dollars probably.
I don't want to speculate on the cost. I want to at least give you my opinion on what I think of that plan.
Yeah, but it's the scale of it. That's the thing.
The scale is very big.
Six.
It could be potentially
Floors.
6 stories high.
That's what's planned.
6 stories.
Well,
at this stage,
understand these are proposals. Understand that the drawings
Mm-hmm.
and the proposal that Jack gave to the community last month
Mm-hmm.
is the first volley.
Right.
Could there be changes to that?
There's
I'm
gonna
not
be.
privy to any of that. I think there may be.
Is
Right?
that-
Well, I don't
You know,
these
disagree
things happen all the time.
with medium rise or
Is that
you know.
any-
Let me
deviation
tell
to
you
the
what he
height?
brings, what that plan brings to the community that I think is really important, and it's something that we're lacking and we've never spent a lot
Confidence.
of time on. Right? We need to increase the median household income in our community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the actual number is right now, but if you go on the web and you look at Flemington Borough and you get the census
tell you.
information, it's like $55,000. It's probably more than that as a median household income. That's a challenge, right? One of the things that I see in our community is that we don't have a lot of people that participate all the time. There's a select few that always participate. You always hear them at the council meeting. You always hear them in on the blogs. You see them on Facebook and other.
That's what it is for Hunterdon County.
That's
Yeah,
Hunterdon
but
County. I'm
Right,
talking about
right.
Yeah.
right. So
Well, my point
so-
being is if it's 55,000 here, it's 85 in
It's
Hunterdon.
li-
Let,
well,
let me
it's
just
lower.
give you another example,
well-
though, just on income, though, because there is now 27% Latino population here. And I'm not making the comment because I'm trying to be politically correct. It's just the
Racist.
facts. Yeah, well, I know. Well, that's what can be levelled at you, but I'll take it. A lot of those incomes and things aren't being covered, and they're probably considerably lower than that. If they're not being included, then it's lower than
Yes,
whatever it
and
is, right?
That
Just-
may be the case. I don't know how they
Right.
come up with the
Right. And
with that
but
number.
by the way,
but it is low, and that's something we need to increase. We need to find a way to increase the wealth, if you will, the median income in our community.
And
So
how do
we
you do
need
that? How are you gonna
we
do that?
need
You have
empty
jobs.
nesters. We need hold on. There's empty nesters. There's white collar, if you will, if you want to call them, or professional millennials, right, that are looking for a good place to live.
retirees even,
Right.
yeah, that can come down here
Right.
and
Doubting
yeah.
Joe.
So that
It's what?
I'm the doubting, not Thomas, Joe.
Well-
Doubting Joe.
Yeah.
Oh.
you might be, but that the reality is we need to find a way to bring some of those
I
folks
agree
into
with
town.
you on that.
The other thing we need to do is we need to figure out how to increase some home ownership in our town, right? Because we've got a lot of renters,
Right,
right?
it's easy.
And
Jobs.
Well,
Well,
let's
You can
go
bring jobs.
through
jobs,
this. I'm
yes.
liking all this.
Look,
Yep.
this goes into another area that I talked about in the past. I think Flemington is just outside of the edge of the zone of influence of the major metropolitan areas. If you live in Somerville, even in Reddington and Raritan and some of these other communities, you can easily commute into New York City as an example.
Yep, and they do.
This extra 15 miles on 202 is very difficult for
Huge.
families to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge. But good schools,
Mm-hmm.
a very attractive environment, right? A beautiful, countryside, lower, real estate values, prices of homes, are draws for people to say, I'm willing to take that commute in order to do that.
Healthy
But-
living, I think, is one of the
yeah,
things.
right.
I
It's
think.
I may have a better quality of living for my family,
Yep.
and overall by making that move and going a little further. We don't have anything here right now that draws people to that, right? We don't have. If you ride around our town, we have beautiful homes, and we have people that are very conscientious in wanting to take care of their homes.
Single-family homes on lots.
Yeah,
Right.
The town. By the way, I think our current council works very hard to try and do the best they can with the amount of taxes or the revenues that we generate, right? But we don't. It's not enough. So we have to find other projects in order to bring people into this community of hopefully that have bring up the median household income and have ownership in a home, right?
Right.
A townhouse or a condo might be one way to do that. Is it do I know that it's going to work? No. But here's the thing I will
It
say.
will. It will.
Here's the thing that I will say about Jack's plan that I like. It has a hotel with it, and it has a business, his business, right? The baseball academy.
Diamond Nation. Yep.
That is an important part, I believe, of his hotel plan. Now, I haven't heard this from Jack, but
No, he said it.
logic
Right.
it makes sense that it's logical that Jack has people coming from all over the country, thousands of people to play baseball at that fantastic facility
Right.
they have, a place to stay. You know what? I'd rather them stay here than some of those new hotels that you see opening up
Sunset. Yeah.
right down the road, right? I mean, if you drive down 202, you go 202 north,
Yep.
there's a whole bunch of new hotels. And they're full. I drive by that all day, every day, and those hotels are full. I don't know if they're from the baseball
Yeah.
academy.
Well, just to give
but
you a
that
pause
makes
here.
sense, right? Go ahead.
Jack asked to build his hotel in Reddington Township. Guess what the answer was there? Because this sort of goes back no, and probably hell no. So it sort of comes back to the welcoming nature of Hunterdon County and some of our municipalities.
Right.
Because I'm pleased you're brave enough to put out some of these items that who doesn't want to have higher value net worth people in their town? It makes sense. My only issue, because Joe got us off onto the Union Hotel, well, there's also the glass
You know,
property.
There, Tony, it's sitting there.
What?
Well,
You're sitting there like
Well, I'm
an
gonna take-
Well, no,
albatross.
we're going to get that, but the point is, what else is here too? Because that was going to be
No,
59
you're full of
condos.
baloney. Listen, Jack Huss,
Well-
it's a great program. I'm not against it.
Here's
Don't
the
get
other
wrong.
thing that
But
he's-
the jobs that you're talking about are all going to
These
be
aren't
service-
jobs.
the
These are
jobs-
wealthy
The
people we're
wealthy
talking
people are
about.
going to come stay in night, but the people that are staying
If they
here,
buy here?
making money,
no,
buying.
People want to buy. I guarantee you. You're a realtor. I'm saying my assessment is
Well-
people are. This is an attractive place with the right homes, right pricing, right taxes, and you can do it in a redevelopment
let's
site.
be-
Absolutely,
let's
I've
be
seen
clear.
it done.
I, as a kid, my young, 20-year-old, I used to go to a hotel, drink all the time. It was a great place to be.
yeah.
However, I'll bring the dozer in. Let's level these things. If Jack wants to put the money in it,
Oh,
and it's going to
well,
build it up.
I would put the money.
I
Here's my
consider him
issue.
a-
Here's my issue. I would invest, and I think other people like-minded. You don't have the opportunity in Hunterdon County and certain towns to come up with these innovative
You're gonna
development
piss
sites.
him
You-
off,
where
and
else
he's
can
gonna
you
go
put up a
someplace else.
six? Well, possible,
Well-
but let's just talk this through.
but you want the right
know?
environment too. You don't want to be out in the country, in a sense. I mean, unless you want to live and have 3 acres of land, that's another story, right? But
Yeah.
if you want to be in, if you will, a vibrant town environment, we have that here. We could have that here. The other thing I would say about his plan that's really, really smart on his part is he wants to take all 4 of those buildings. He wants to make this one big complex. So now that becomes one tax block, right? He spent a lot of money on buying that liquor license. He owns that liquor license.
Well, you get a free one with the 100-room hotel. Let's not
Well,
forget
forget the-
that.
forget the
Because
free-
here's why
Same-
I'm saying
let me
this.
Same
finish my-
license that
let-
went from here to there
Yes.
to here.
Let me finish
That
my
was-
point.
Okay.
That was good.
I consider him in some respects a white knight because that liquor license was potentially could have gone to like a discount liquor establishment, and he came in and he bought it because he didn't want to see that happen.
Well, I think it's
Now-
going to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Well-
So let's
Well,
not.
well, hold
I
on.
just
Well,
want to make
Buffalo-
sure we're
that's
putting it out
Buffalo
there.
Wild Wings
you know.
gets that's a different. If you have a larger, if you have 100 tables or something like
Well,
that,
Phil,
you get the
I-
license. But let me tell you what he's done. If that becomes one tax block, and he builds this community, this lifestyle environment, he's talking about like up to 4 restaurants in there. They could all share in that one liquor license. So now
I
all
read
of a
that.
sudden
He's conscious.
you're creating an area where there's choice and there's options and there's more than one place that you can open up. You know, an establishment that where you can go and have, a drink
Right.
with dinner. So I think he covers a lot of things in his plan that, in my opinion,
Is
are
lacking in Flemington.
well, it's important
But-
to help the community grow.
Well,
we
well-
need to find ways to do that. Now,
Yeah.
what happens when you do things like that? Well, you get more tax revenue. You get other businesses that also want to move in, right? I mean, if I'm a business, I may not want to move to this town because there's not an open a business here because there might not be enough foot traffic. There might not be enough density. He's going to create that density. Or at
Well,
least he's
that's
gonna create a-
presupposing retail business where you want to have passerbys or customers, right? There's other
Yeah,
types
but
of
if
business.
I want to open up a store here,
Yeah. Well,
how am I
that's
going to
a
get the people
store.
going through? Now all of a sudden he puts all these hundreds of units in
I
over
agree.
there.
That's a good
That's
point.
and we
Yeah.
could talk about
No.
cut glass and some of the other ones because they're all tied into this into what goes on in the middle of town. So what happens is now you get more density, you get more people in town, you get other businesses that say, you know what, I can open up here. You might even get one of those anchor businesses because they could do their formula and say there's enough business to move into this
Right.
community now,
Right.
right? So all these things are tied into each other.
Totally agree.
It creates that that environment, or at least the hope that there's the possibility of doing that.
I'll go get the
now,
bulldozer.
Yeah.
Now
We'll
you
level
get
up right now.
more ratables, right?
Yeah.
You get more ratables. You get more tax revenue from businesses. It helps
Right.
with the
You
taxes
painted
in the
a great
community.
picture, and I say amen, brother, and I'm with you.
Right.
The only thing is that to me, rather than being a negative hole in the ground, is a very positive,
Right.
constructive opportunity that one person, and he is a local business person, and I think he should have the opportunity. But now that the game rules have changed, that you could potentially go to 6 floors,
Yeah.
that you can potentially make this massive building, that you can potentially have all this, you don't think other people are interested? Because, as I explained to you the other day, other people have tried to do that in the past and been shut down.
So
And it may have been different
So he's
regimes.
seeking-
And how
but-
to work out? How to work out for the town?
Well, exactly.
So he's seeking
exactly.
relief from the height requirement, which is, how many floors now?
Well, it's 3 at
3,
the
so
moment.
he wants to go
Yeah.
it's
twice.
4. It's 4.
Well, 3 and a
he wants
half.
to go to 6.
Where's a
but
4?
that's what his design calls for. Let me just comment about opening this up to other people.
Well, not just.
Or
I'm
other-
not getting stuck on the Union Hotel site. For period.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I've got the master plan open here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about what I wanted to talk about. Some of the other sites and your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Agway. We've got the Glass location, and they had
Agway.
59 condos. Because I'll stand behind you 100%. I, even as a lowly realtor as myself, could sell condos to people. You go down to Frenchtown, and Mr. George Michael has some rather high-priced realtors. Why? Because he's actually put them together. Density is a key element here. Where else can you do that? Most other towns, oh, you've got septic problems, you've got this.
Yep.
No, we're not. It's like none of which can't be overcome. We had a septic gentleman on just recently, and you can design things very economically and efficiently and environmentally friendly to treat all that stuff. So my point is, I turn it around very positively, saying that is a great proposition. What about some of these other sites?
Tony, we're going to wind down a little bit. We just want to
Well,
do a
what-
little bit on mortgages and stuff too. I mean,
Well,
don't wanna
I-
cut-
I'm
know
actually-
This could go on for.
Well,
years.
Agway,
I'll
let's
just,
ask
I'll just,
about
I'll just
Agway
make,
and-
What's
I'll make
happening
one
in Agway?
statement about
Here we
all
go.
of these different locations. They all point back to the middle of town. So all of the different the Nilkanth project, right, which is across the street from Agway, right, the Cut Glass project, all of those developers and those parties are waiting to see what happens in town,
Right.
because that is the justification
Yeah.
and the draw to bring in the businesses and the residents. So they all tie
That's
back to
even more of
that.
an
But
argument
let me share with
to-
you
to
one
bring
issue,
us in.
okay? Because this is why I'm less interested in mortgages today and what has happened here
Hey,
before.
hey!
In
Easy
Agway,
over there.
they have the nice old barn. There was people that were interested in removing that and reusing it, and so they could develop. No, because of the historic nature of it.
Well,
now you're telling me though
I don't know
that
that
it's,
that
it's-
was. I don't
that's-
know that that's the case. I mean, what I know about the Agway property was is that property was in receivership. It was owned by a bank.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, the town. It took a long time for the town to actually find out who actually owned that property. You guys are in the business. You know that when properties get bank owned, the bank packages those properties. They sell them to someone else. The next thing you know, they're sold to someone else, and it's very hard.
Interesting. I did the
to track-
research
to
because
track
Clinton
those
has
things.
an Agway. It's
one
probably
in
the
Clinton.
premium property. Okay, so
Center of town,
yeah,
Clinton.
this is why it does relate to real estate. The tax lien holder there is actually doing plans right now.
Good.
Okay, there was one in Washington because Agway was a large group.
Right.
But my point comes back. I'm trying to keep it on Flemington and some of the rulings that have been made in the past that people are still suffering from, and then to make a major change. Yeah, you know, what is the justification? Because the tree huggers, as Joe calls them, or the preservationists, I can see the view. It's like, hang on, we've held out this long, all the pain and suffering's been there, and now we're going to give carte blanche to develop a large mega site. And you hear
Okay.
concerns about, well, what say if they go so far and then it falls over, as Liam and Matt found with this one. And I think you can get financial guarantees, you know, performance things. You know, what if the tax is going to be? I haven't seen many towns operate commercially smart, period.
Right.
And that's because they're made up of citizens that, just like you, very well-meaning, and then business, they get overwhelmed and changes happen, and, you know, the sort of last person, and I'm in that same boat. I've committed to doing things, and then you find out you can't. But haven't you seen that happen here? And
Yeah, well, yes, and I think what I saw happen in our town is the elected officials really tried to do what a lot of the residents and outside individuals that come into our town wanted in terms of preserving the history. right? In hindsight, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. I mean, yes,
At-
you
at
want to
that
preserve
time.
history, right? We opted when I was on the council, and we granted the redevelopment rights to the the Matt and Liam, right? That LLC that they put together. It was because they had the truest vision of restoration of that hotel to what it once was. In hindsight, it was maybe more emotional than really based on sound, business principles. Right? I think we have to get beyond that. I know that there's going to be a lot of residents in town that will see me that will say, "Why are you saying this?" But the fact of the matter is that I talk to a lot of residents. There's a lot of people in town, and I would say probably more than less in town, that would rather see something happen and growth and change in our community to drive down their taxes, increase the values of their property, because our properties have gone way down, and Flemington has not recovered like some of the other towns.
I got to. We're down to 5
Okay.
minutes, and really a great discussion.
Well,
Great-
I was
great
gonna
discussion.
let
No,
him
you're
fin-
done. You're done.
That's
Great discussion.
I was going to let you finish, but what I was going to say
There we
was,
go. You had to
I
jump
can't.
in.
I campaigned in Hillsborough, and that's the exact thing that I've heard from more people going door to door. All I care about is my taxes going down.
Sure.
And all I care about is my property value going up. So if Jack Cuss wants to develop the hotel, great. If he doesn't, he wants to level it and put in something that's going to bring jobs, going to bring people, going to raise values, going to
Awareness,
lower
all that,
property.
yes.
Guess what?
Okay.
Bring it in.
Earn
Yes,
your,
sir.
Earn your keep. Tell me about mortgages.
Well,
what happened
for the last
What
two,
happened?
real quick, for the last 2 weeks, market's been flat. Rates been flat for the last 2
Come
days.
on. What?
Last
Where
2
we at?
days, stock market's been going way up, and
Yes,
rates have been
yes.
going up with it.
Yeah.
Where are
So,
we at today?
But you
30
always
year.
said it's bonds.
well,
rather than
but
the
but
market.
the bond
Oh, sorry.
but the bond market is moving in opposite of
What's the
stocks.
I want a 30-year fix. How much?
If you want to do a conventional loan, it's 3.75. You want to do a government loan, 3.625.
USD,
Mate, it's been like
USDA?
this forever.
I know.
What's really changed? That's my
what-
point.
USDA.
Phil.
How much?
3.625.
3.6.
This
So you know
excites
what?
Joe?
Hunterdon County, USDA approved. You can come in here, buy a home, 100% financing, no money down in
Yeah.
Flemington.
What about
See, that's
VA?
the point. Why aren't people coming
VA?
here?
VA.
You know, to your point.
Well, VA too.
It's the
Yeah, that's one to come out.
uncertainty. You know, who's actually going to help develop it?
3.6
Oh.
guaranteed 30-year fix.
Correct.
No money down.
Correct.
As long as it's in Hunterdon
You could actually roll your
You
clothes-
cannot make more than how much a year?
What was it?
For VA, there is no, limit.
No,
I'm sorry,
USDA.
$100,400.
See,
It
see,
didn't go up.
this
Wait a minute,
is
it
what
was
I mean.
98 in Hunterdon.
No. Yeah. Well, it went up when they went to the 2010
Is
census.
that for a
Thank you.
family or an individual?
individual.
Family.
Family.
Oh, what's
you're married.
individual? It's
Same thing.
Same, yeah.
Same thing.
100
But if you go up to
Zero
5
down.
people, if you go up to 5 people in a home, it's 125,000.
Zero
Yeah.
down. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the
And you can
reason
roll your
out-
closing cost in.
The rationale is if you are going to put 20% down, it means you can go to the bank, take 20% out, and put it down. You don't have to, and the money's still there. Correct.
Right.
Is your payments going to be a little higher? Yeah,
But not that much.
not that much. Not at that.
And how
interest
long's
rate.
that been around for, though?
The USDA?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, 2001.
Right. So I'm
It's a
saying we're coming up
phenomenal
with breaking
plan
news
in
here,
Hunterdon
right?
County
You know.
to buy a home. I mean, yeah, grant you. What's his credit scores? Quick,
640.
640 credit.
You can go down to a 580, but there's other things like you have to provide other
Dude.
documentation.
I
Self-employed?
have a client at
Can I be
650 and
self-employed and get it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So just think of how many homes that you would sell if you were able to plaster up on your website Jack Cuss's new project and buying a home. Get in now before the prices go up.
exactly. Exactly.
Well,
I
you-
see it once
So,
it's
so you're
packaged,
saying that
right?
Joe and Tony could be the exclusive listing agents for Jack
I
Cuss?
didn't
Is
say-
that what you just
well,
said?
We're talking
Is that the official
townhomes.
announcement?
Yeah, townhomes
No,
are,
I didn't
are,
say
are
that.
good.
Oh, okay. I thought you-
But see, this is where it's confidence as opposed to pessimism, because you put a plan. Now, the thing I have is back to your point about the magical taxes and values going the
2
right
minutes,
ways.
2
I
minutes,
see
you're
it. I
starting
see
a
it.
good one. Don't do it.
If you want to waste the time telling us to wrap up, you know, is it going to happen? What are the guarantees that will actually work out that way? Because you always hear people talk about it, and then the money goes west or east. You know, it's a general fund. It's this. You know.
Okay.
You know-
I think at this
Yeah.
time, I'm getting our sound engineers looking at us saying, guys, it's that time. First of all, I got
Boy,
to
Rich
thank
lets
you,
us go
sir.
over.
Great Thank you very much for coming.
Don't.
It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. 'Cause
Well, very brave
this
of you to
is
come
a
along.
Very,
You know.
every time we come here, we
We're
look at-
outspoken
I love this town. I love
individuals.
this town. Seriously, I really do.
You love
and,
every town.
I want to see it prosper. I really do. So I thank you
But
for
probably
all the
one
work
of the
you've done.
eyesores of this town is that Flemington Elks building. If you can level that building
That's Raritan.
and
yeah.
put something, put
Raritan
something.
Township, but
Yeah.
All right.
well.
All right, we're
Thank
being cut off.
All right, there
All
you
right.
go.
Thank you
Thanks
all
again.
for
Good
listening.
night from
and
us.
we'll
Take care.
see you all.
Okay.